If you've been around for a minute, you might be familiar with the fact that every year for the last, I don't know, maybe 6 years, 7 years, I've had champagne bottles to represent my goals. And which makes a lot of sense because I was basically trying to trick myself into celebrating my wins along the way, because I'm terrible at celebrating my wins. And at the same time, it visualizes an end result, right? If you get to a goal, you get to pop the cork, share that with some friends, and it really makes a very nice visual metaphor, because what is more celebratory than champagne? But you might notice that this is coming out after January 1st, and that I've taken some time to think about it, and honestly, I don't really want to do this year. So I thought I'd make a video explaining why I don't want to do it this year, how I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Let's just get into it. If you're curious about these two, this one is for a book that I wanted to sell, and it goes all the way back to 2018. Whatever's in here probably can't be classified as champagne to begin with, but definitely by now is just gotta be flat poison. And then this is real champagne and is for a goal that we have actually accomplished. It says app launch, which we don't call my guide an app publicly just because we don't want to confuse people. It's at this point not what you would think of as an app, obviously. However, we got it up and running, and I'm just saving this for when Jeff shows up so we can actually open this together. Feels like something we should share as a team. The way that I've been looking at goals lately, and probably for the last couple of years, has been a little bit mixed, because on the one hand, it's really nice to have a very set, clear, measurable goal that you want to accomplish during the year to get to motivate you, to have something to look forward to, and also to celebrate when you get there. Like asking yourself, what is it that you want? But in reality, so many of the things that I want are going to take a lot longer than a year. You can't really accomplish a whole lot in a year, but you can accomplish anything in a decade. And so for the last year especially, I've been trying to think in those terms a lot more, looking forward to the future and trying to be really, really clear about what it is I want and where I want to go. And then breaking things down from there to figure out, okay, well, what are the steps to get there? Which leads to the goals that I end up making for a year and writing on a bottle. And that makes total sense. But I'm kind of over it. And that's not to say that I'm over making goals or working towards the future. But what I've found is that often these goals that I find for myself, like this, I'd already written this book when I wrote this one down. And, you know, we were gonna end up building the guide out into something that was more than a PDF. That was bound to happen. And it does lead towards other goals in the future that I have. However, a lot of other ones that I've had, like getting a season of the podcast done or losing 20 pounds or even more, while those things were definitely things that I wanted to do, I believe they're symptomatic of just always adding more to my plate. Anytime there was any space or any room in my life, I always just added more. And it wasn't because I actually needed more so much as maybe I wasn't so willing to stop and look at everything I had already done. Maybe I could actually slow it down a little bit. Maybe what I really want from life isn't going to be accomplished by getting another season of my podcast out. I sat down to write a lot. The last few weeks I've been journaling, I've been thinking about the future, I've been thinking about the past. This last year has been brutal. It really ended on a really rough note. I feel like the last quarter of last year was basically just me being generally useless and trying to survive. I'm really proud of myself for how I've been able to get through it and where we are today. But today, rather than add more to my plate, add new bottles, think about new goals, I actually want to stop and take things off my plate. I'd rather focus on doing less, knowing that ultimately, paradoxically, I'll end up being able to do more, but also because I just am on this cycle of always doing more and more and more. And I never stop to appreciate what I've actually accomplished, whether or not I have a bottle of champagne in front of me. And that also leaves me vulnerable to the fact that I don't think I ever actually slow down long enough to ask the question, is this getting me closer to what I really want in the future? Or is this just me running on a hamster wheel? And before we get fully into that, you might be aware of how intrinsic therapy has been to me in the last few years. And I do think one of the great accomplishments of my life has been getting to a place where I'm genuinely the healthiest I've ever been, emotionally, mentally. It might not always look that way, and the way that the last year ended, it didn't feel that way. But I wouldn't have been able to make it through this last quarter if it hadn't been for the years that I'd invested into therapy. I started in 2019, and it has been a very, very long and painful ride. And it's also a fundamental reason why I didn't find myself spiraling into self-destruction as a number of things unfolded in the last few months. And in fact, I enter 2025 with a greater foundation under me than I think I've ever had in my entire life, than I know that I've ever had in my entire life. Which is why I'm really grateful that this video, the first video of the year, is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp helps to connect people to mental health providers all around the world with the ease of an app. Whether that's by text, by call, or by video chat, you're actually able to communicate directly with a therapist that aligns with whatever specialty you might be looking for. And what I really love about it is that they make it really easy to switch from person to person until you find a provider that you really connect with, because that can be one of the most difficult and most expensive elements of getting into therapy. I got very lucky finding mine on the first try here in Paris, and I know that I'm really lucky, but I have a number of friends who have struggled to find theirs the first go around. So making it completely painless to move from one provider to another is one of the great features that I love about BetterHelp. And now I even have a number of friends who've used BetterHelp because I introduced them to it through these ad reads, and they love it because they found their provider as well. That only makes it ring that much truer to me to try and connect people to therapy when I've benefited from it so greatly, and I believe that we all deserve that investment in ourselves. So if you're looking for somebody to talk to and you would like to get into therapy and you're not really sure how to do it, use the link below or the one that's on screen at betterhelp.com/Jay Swanson, and you'll get 10% off of your first month. And even though I can say that I was really lucky to find mine on the first try, and maybe you won't be, it is definitely worth putting in the effort to find somebody, because it can be an absolutely life-changing experience. And I think that's actually a big part of the reason why I'm done with the gold bottles for this year. I think in the future I might come back to it, but also I don't want to drink alcohol for a while. I didn't drink it all in November, partially because the person I was dating was off of it, and I did that to support her as she was going through a thing. It's not for me to divulge what that was, but like, it was nice, and a lot of my friends are doing it, and Dry January is on, and honestly, it aligns with the health goals. So I just want to briefly talk about like what it is that I want from life and how I'm going to adjust my behavior this year to approach it a little bit differently, but not too differently. And one of the things that I realized was missing from this video as I started editing it was something practical to do. And for me, journaling has been really helpful. So I thought I'd give you a couple of different exercises that I've done over the last few months, but especially the ones recently that have been very helpful in both recognizing how far I've come, but also that maybe I could just slow it down for a second. The first is an achievement list. I did this a long time ago, and basically what you do is you just write out everything you're proud of that you've ever accomplished in your entire life. Anything about you as a person that you've done, that you haven't done, big, small, that you know, that everyone knows, whatever it is, just write out that list of reasons that you can and should be proud of yourself. Not only is it a great exercise to look at everything you've accomplished and really help to establish that you're probably doing better than you give yourself credit for, but it's also really nice to look back at any time that you can't really think of any reason to be proud of yourself. An iteration of this that I did in returning to single life and kind of readjusting to where I'm at in that process right now, which is something that we'll dive into in greater detail in 2025, I think, than I ever have before, was a why I'm a catch list. I went through and listed all the things that I loved about myself. That could include the work that you've done in therapy, that could include your personality traits, your passions, that could include your abilities, your achievements. It could include just the fact that you smell great first thing in the morning. Whatever it is that you know about yourself that makes you a great catch, listing those things out helps you to also realize that it's not on you. The achievement list has everything to do with self-confidence and recognizing that you are amazing. The why you're a catch list helps, at least with me, to recognize that maybe it's not me. Maybe it's not that there's nothing wrong with me, but maybe ultimately I'm not the problem. And thankfully, I have done a lot of work, and I'm at a place in my life where I do recognize I am quite a catch. And so it really helps to go through and do that. Even from like the just basic dating profile stuff of like the highlights of like, this is why I'm awesome, to like the deep stuff that nobody else would know. When looking back at 2024, one of the exercises that helped me the most was what I want more of and what I want less of moving into 2025. So I definitely want more candles. My sister and Lindsay both have given me really nice candles for Christmas. Why don't I have candles more often? Or flowers? Why don't I have more phone calls with my sister? And at the other end of the spectrum, I would like less financial stress, please, and definitely less screen time. There's long lists of those things, but I want to be off my phone less because I realize it doesn't have what I want to be happy. I open my phone often, unrelated exercise, but a good one, to take a moment every time you instinctively or mindlessly pull your phone out of your pocket. Why did you do that? What are you looking for? It could be, entertainment, but it might be at the root because you're lonely, because you're unhappy, because you're uncomfortable, because you're anxious in a social environment. Keeping track of that mentally helps you to recognize maybe the answer isn't actually in my phone. Maybe I need to figure out where that answer is. Anyway, those are some examples of journaling exercises that I have used in the last couple of months, both to feel better about myself and the future in relation to how rough the recent past has been, but also to better plan for a future where maybe I don't need to add more to my plate, but maybe I can focus in on removing things and then guarding that space and just enjoying the things I already have and continue on the path I'm already on. Because when I look 10 years out, broad strokes, what I really want is to be in good health, to have deep relationships, and to be financially secure. I've never been financially secure in my life. We're getting there. I hope. This last year was brutal. I've been very broke for a while, but we've gone through it. I've leveled up on the financial discipline. We're just around the corner from at least hopefully being able to pay myself a decent wage. But if nothing else, I'm really proud of what we've built, and I think we're on the right track. The depth of my relationships is definitely deeper than they've ever been now, but I see ways in which I can improve that over time, and my health is also probably the best it's ever been. I'm very lucky to just kind of have a nice baseline of health. But all the hard work I put into the dieting, to exercise, to eating better, getting actual sleep consistently, all of these things are already starting to pay off, and I want to double down on that. The other thing is that when we look out in 10 years, part of what makes all of this so difficult is everything feels so uncertain. What will even exist in 10 years? The AI boom, whatever that even looks like, is definitely destroying the creator economy slowly, maybe for now, but it very well could just accelerate anytime now. So like my job could very well be in jeopardy. So many people's jobs are already in jeopardy and could be soon. We don't need to go down the rabbit hole, the deep, dark rabbit hole of all the things that are going on in the world right now, because we focus on that enough as it is, I'm sure, in our daily lives, but that is very, very real. So uncertainty makes it really hard to look out with great specificity. I definitely have plans and goals and dreams that I can continue to work towards, and I will use those as my North Star. I've really come back to the game, wanting to build the game, wanting to make a really fun, interactive, real-world experience here in Paris. We're in discussions about that again. It's something that I'm trying to figure out. It's ultimately why we're building Paris in My Pocket and the guide the way we are, because we're creating the infrastructure beneath that we need, and that'll be the guiding principles. But it's also, I think, really hard to feel like, yeah, for sure, things are going to work out great in the midst of the way that the world is right now. I want to balance a little bit of optimism with a bit of realism. I don't know where that leaves me. But it also means that instead of like recalibrating and making new goals, especially short-term goals, I think I just need to double down on the ones I have. I think I already have a very good path forward, especially in the last few months when things are going really hard and you just really want to quit. You don't know if you're doing anything right. Everything sucks. You really have to step back and take a look at what's going on around you. Try to get an idea of the trajectory. Try to see if you are headed the right direction, if there are good and positive signs. And I'm really fortunate that there are. Like Paris in My Pocket, at least on Instagram, is growing so quickly. When we finally get the YouTube side of things dialed in, I believe that will also grow quickly. And then those things can serve to build towards the future that I want them to serve. But I really need to focus on those things growing. So I need to continue my focus there. I've had a lot of focus there. I need to double down on that. I'm going to continue vlogging and talking to you, so I want that to keep going because it's really important to me. It gives me so much, and also it is the financial backbone of everything we're already doing. So don't want to jettison that anytime soon. And then just continue to develop my financial discipline, to continue to learn to be a better manager, a better product owner, a better whatever. I just need to keep investing in myself professionally. Personally then, like on the relationship side, I'm generally very happy with my friendships. My family relationships are getting stronger. There's a lot going on behind the scenes there still. I saw the video I made about my mom, but with my dad and my sister, there's good momentum there, and I want to continue to invest in that, as well as with my friends. Basically making sure that with those people that are genuinely close to me and who invest in me in the same way that I invest in them, to double down on that, and to just make sure that I'm being a little bit more proactively thoughtful. And then with my health, it comes back to like, yeah, I'm gonna cut out drinking for a little bit. I will drink occasionally for, professional reasons and occasionally for fun. And because like I'm on this journey with my physical trainer and nutritionist, I think that if I were to do a goal bottle for health, it would be from when we change from fat loss to muscle gain. That'll be a nice complete shift in dynamic, and I'm looking forward to when that day comes. And so I think that ultimately really the theme for 2025 for me on the goals front is just to keep going. If anything, I want less on my plate than more. If I were to have a goal, it would be to switch my default to no. To just saying no to anything that isn't YouTube and Paris in My Pocket. Like those are the only things that I should be thinking about at all when it comes to work at least. And then continuing to develop the relationships that I've been working on, continuing to develop the health that I have, and maintaining that so that in 10, 20, 30 years, I'm still alive and kicking and having a decent time. Honestly, it's to take a step back and to realize like I've accomplished a lot. I've popped a lot of these gold bottles along the way, and I've never really stopped to just like maybe stay the course. You know what I mean? I published some books. I got my podcast going. I lost weight. I got my driver's license. I've done a whole bunch of stuff that's on these things, including 2 gold bottles around getting my citizenship. There's just been so much that's gone on in the last almost 8 years of living in Paris nonstop. And I kind of realized like I'm just part of the reason that I'm so malcontent and I'm struggling so much on the one hand is because financial stress takes its toll. And I already told you the story about this, but fighting with your French accountant just to get you your numbers and then never getting correct numbers and then not getting the support you need from the bank and then struggling to make payroll and then having to cut your own personal expenses to the bone just to make sure that you can actually pay your people, and doing that for 6 months is horrible. And I never want to do that again. Lesson learned, there's some changes that we've made and I will continue to stick with. That's a big part of it. But the other part of it is that the main goal that I had this entire time, the main champagne goal, even though I didn't write it on the bottle until like probably 2 years ago, was getting my French citizenship. The main thing that kept me in Paris, the main North Star, the thing that determined so many elements of my life, that built so much pressure up, that like really, really forced me to just knuckle down and suffer through whatever I had to suffer through, was securing my place here and the future that I may or may not have in France, because I never wanted that to be taken away from me again. As I got the relief of knowing that I had made it, there was another emotion that came in that I didn't fully recognize, which was feeling lost, like not knowing exactly what the next step was going to be, not knowing if I should stay or shouldn't stay, not knowing what I wanted or where I was going. Like I accomplished this really big goal, a very big personal goal, and it kind of left me with a bit of a vacuum. And a lot of the goals that I'd filled in immediately came up for question. Like, is this what I really want? What is it that I really want? It's a hard question to answer, which is why I've circled back to the very, very basics right now, which is I want my health, I want my relationships, and I would like to make some money. Like I would like to never go through that level of financial stress again. I realize I can't control that, but I can certainly have a very direct impact on it. I definitely have a little bit more rest to take. I definitely am not back to 100% entirely, but I think I've exited a little bit of a depression that I didn't fully recognize that I was going through. And even though I'm exiting the hardest stretch of the last 6 months, the next couple of months are going to require, continued discipline. But that's not a bad thing. I've really started changing so many habits, and I've gone through so many identity changes in the last 10 to 15 years. I've changed my life so completely. I've been in a bit of a whirlwind for a long time, and the fact that that whirlwind has more or less stopped is just about as disorienting as getting into the whirlwind in the first place. My inner ears got very used to spinning around nonstop, and when everything stopped spinning, I was left feeling like I was definitely spinning. 2025 for me is a year to just slow it down and focus in on the few things that I know for sure matter and just try to let everything else go. So rather than set myself with any measurable goals along those lines, I mean, internally with my team, we have some measurable goals for sure with my nutritionist and my trainer. They have goals they may not even be telling me about exactly, but we do have some goals that are much more just about how do I look and feel than anything else. And with my friends, we don't have any goals, although I do really want to celebrate my 40th in a spectacular way. So I got to figure out the finances as soon as I can to make sure that that can happen. That's it. I feel like all we do is sit around worrying about being productive, and all that productivity goes to make platforms and companies and billionaires tons of money. And what is my increased productivity necessarily doing for me? And it's not that I don't want to be productive and I don't want to work hard, but I realize I've been spinning a lot of plates that don't necessarily help me in what I'm trying to accomplish. So again, how do I focus down on the ones that I know definitely have a huge impact? And also think in terms of like end of life, am I going to really worry about what I worked on and what I made? And I'm not going to care. I'm going to think about the relationships I had. I'm going to appreciate so much all the good health that I had. As soon as that's gone, I'm definitely going to miss it. And the last few months of really struggling with my energy and what might have been a kidney stone and whatever else have definitely highlighted that for me. And even in the business side of things, the thing that makes me the most proud is seeing my team grow and develop and watching them flourish and wanting to figure out how to do even more of that and hope that I can be the best I can be for them. It all really comes back down to health and relationships. So why don't I just slow it down a little bit and live as cheaply as I can for a little while longer? And maybe I'll get lucky and I'll actually make a pile of money one of these days. But in the interim, that's not really the focus. Like, how do I stop, slow down, serve my audience, serve the people that are coming to Paris? How do I just give as much as I can in 2025 from what surplus I have, and then also say no and set some boundaries when I reach my limit? These are big enough lessons to try and figure out, and I think 2025 is a year of really learning to just like stay the course. Let me know what you think below, like what goals you might have. Obviously, this is just me this year. If you've picked up the champagne goal thing, or you thought about it on your own and did it without me, what are you writing on your champagne goals? I'd love to hear below. I'd love to actually know what you're thinking about this year. And hopefully there's some optimism out there, and hopefully we can think positively about how we can continue to grow and develop and just maybe enjoy life a little bit along the way. I definitely never been very good at that. And if I can accomplish just that, if I can just start to really enjoy life here and now, every day, like right now, enjoy my cozy chateau and all the nice warm lights I have in here and the snorty dog in the background, if I can just enjoy this, the process of making a video, man, I think that's enough to pop some champagne on its own. Anyway, thanks to today's patron producer, Scott Jones, and all my patrons for being a genuine financial and emotional support through the last 8 years, especially. To all of you for watching, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful 2025, even though I know it feels like we got just the crap kicked out of us in 2024, and how can we expect anything better in 2025? I'm renewing my optimism for it, and I'm doing so by focusing in on the basic. And I just can't wait to share whatever's coming with you, good or bad. It's gonna be a ride.